Thank you, John, and thank you everybody coming to listening to my presentation. I'm very humbled to have been asked or invited by John Bryan to talk about OSGeo. It's for the first time in my life I have a presentation dedicated to OSGeo. I always have OSGeo mentioned in all of my slides, but never really talked about the foundation, so I hope to do justice to their wonderful work. So let me start with what's OSGeo all about. Well, it's simple, and that's in the orange. The aim is to empower everyone with open source geospatial, and that involves software, tools, data, standards, all sorts of things, as we will see. OSGeo is a member-driven, not-for-profit organization or foundation, which has few tasks. First of all, to organize people activities, then offer a platform for public technology commons, so tools, data, educational products. Then they act as developer manager, so they curate and incubate projects and help developers to do it in a systematic and reliable way. And they are also very often an event sponsor, so most of Geo activities you will see the logo of OSGeo. Now, this foundation is built on two main concepts, and these two are the open source, which are the 10 rules coming from DBN software development on how to provide an open source software. So it's not only about the free distribution and the source code, but mostly about using appropriate license to allow users to actually access it in a proper way, but at the same time acknowledge the authors of the software in a proper way. Open Geospatial is all about open geospatial data, open geo education, open geoscience, and open geo standards. So everything that's specific to the geo domain. There are three main areas of actuation, so three goals of OSGeo, and that is to provide help with development, help to build strong OSGeo community, and help to ensure that these OSGeo tools actually use open standards, so allow users to interact through open standard interfaces using data standardized based on open standard encodings and so forth. Now, the development within OSGeo is driven and curated and organized and helped by so-called incubation community within OSGeo Foundation. And they have the role in assuring that developers develop their codes in line with the principles and the charter of OSGeo, in other terms, as open source, working with open geodata, allowing open science, allowing everything that they stand for. There are several benefits of joining this way of developing your tools if you plan it to open it for the public, and that is, well, most of all, it's to ensure the development is topical, it stays within the lines, it's managed, it's systematic, and it's repeatable, reusable. But also you expose your efforts to a huge community nowadays of OSGeo supporters, so you get instant feedback and just push forward to make things better than you might have planned originally. There are also, of course, all sorts of source code checks and code developer associated activities that are helped with by the OSGeo. There are two main kinds of projects, and most of you will know who visit the OSGeo website. These are community projects and OSGeo projects. And the difference is that the community projects are developed outside of that incubation program of OSGeo, but yet are exposed to the OSGeo community for feedback, for use. Sometimes it's just to actually show that we are behind OSGeo principles, but we are doing our own thing anyway. Whereas OSGeo projects actually get the full support. Now, this is more to bring in some color. I'm not going to talk about these tools, and many of these tools are known to you. Most of us are avid users of these. So these are just examples. The list is much longer, and I encourage you to search through it and find a tool that you might actually find useful. There are several initiatives within OSGeo, and they are perhaps worth mentioning in addition to what has been already said. These are the initiatives that help to actually do much more than just software development, curation and incubation. And first of all, FOSFOG and FOSFOG travel grants. So these are managed and organized by the OSGeo Foundation, and they ensure FOSFOGeo community means annually, internationally, and also supports regional chapters such as the one we are right now in participating. Another interesting initiative and very important, because we tend to think OSGeo is all about software, but it's not, because it's much more necessary to actually ensure the software is used properly, software is available and it's attributed to the authors, and that users actually know how to use the software. And this initiative is Geo for All, and that's a group of enthusiastic educators with OSGeo tools who decided to join into a group, ensuring there are tools available for classroom, for teachers, for researchers. There are educational materials that can be shared available. Then there are some support for educational activities. Now, Geo for All operates the network of so-called OSGeo labs, and these are the labs. You see the distribution on the map. It's not a super impressive number, but there are a lot of them. And the idea is to actually set up a lab where purely OSGeo tools are used in developing projects. And when that lab exists, can register themselves to the map. Resources, one of the pages nowadays curated by the OSGeo, not within the Geo for All website, contains all sorts of dedicated materials, teaching materials for other teachers to use, and those that actually are with and on Open Geospatial tools. So we as educators actually, we don't teach tools, we use tools to actually practice the principles we teach with. Sometimes these are OSGeo and thereby possible to share for others. Many local chapters here, and we have heard the one that applies to us. So currently it's OSGeo Oceania, but you can see from this list that actually chapters can group on whatever principle. They just need to actually demonstrate they promote OSGeo within their activities. We were just talking before earlier with John, looking at the huge amount of interested people. Maybe it's time to set up an OSGeo WA chapter. What do you think? Yeah. Another one, quite interesting and important nowadays, initiative helping UN actually transition from being locked in black boxes and proprietary softwares towards using the OSGeo products. That's actually a combination of UN running out of money for expensive licenses and having OSGeo alternatives to the very things they actually use and for what they use. We had last year a presentation on the actual example how UN uses this, so slides are available still online if you are interested. There are more initiatives. And two examples, Google Summer of Code, that's dedicated to students, so OSGeo mentors, students who are really keen to actually utilize this session to improve OSGeo tools. So usually ideas for these projects come from the wish list of these tools, and OSGeo mentors actually step in to help students to complete in time. And another initiative many of you will know is the OSGeo Live, to ensure that there is a distributable set of OSGeo tools that you can just run by sticking a USB to your computer. And two more, which are less visible than the others. One is dealing with Open Geoscience, and that was the initiative very enthusiastically set out in 2015, but without any visible activity within OSGeo, but there is visible activity by OSGeo members all the time. So there's always somebody actually publishes something on OSGeo tools, open data, and so all the concepts OSGeo curates. And I apologize for the shameless plug, but that's one of the good overviews of what existed in 2020. And the last initiative is to ensure that libraries, OSGeo curated libraries, do talk to each other so that they use open interfaces, open data, and so forth. Now let's talk about membership. So this is the members-driven organization. So what type of memberships are there? Participants, and you are all now participants, so members of OSGeo. Then there are members, so those that actually register to OSGeo website and OSGeo Foundation and put up their hands to help out running the organization in one of their 4 activities: organizing, curating, or helping with events. And there are charter members. So charter members are those that are actually selected from everybody else who is enthusiastic in OSGeo to ensure that there is democracy, so that OSGeo members just don't run wild, but they are actually policed by community. So a few examples. Well, you are participants. Here is the current board of directors, so examples of members. Well, same old, or same well-known names in the OSGeo community. And, well, 3 examples of charter members. Yes, number 161, number 409, and number 447. OSGeo is a not-for-profit organization, so for running their activities they are dependent on sponsors. And of course we have various levels, and these might be temporary, so it's a lot of previous sponsors, so they were affluent at some time and wanted to donate, but then they ran out of money, so they had to step out and give an opportunity to others. Now, don't get me wrong, so these sponsors do not sponsor development of the tools. So those open OSGeo tools software packages have their own sponsors, oftentimes the same company. But the sponsorship given through these sponsors is to run the organization, to have money for events and all sorts of other things. Now, I was thinking how to actually conclude this chat talk presentation, sorry. So I decided, instead of telling you how to actually join, to provide an example how I ended up with OSGeo. I'm not a developer. Yes, as I said, many people think OSGeo is all about coding and creating these super perfect tools and submitting it and give it to the community. No, I am not a developer, although that's what you see there, the television with this funky keyboard and the cassette where the program came on is my computer station at the age of primary school. But all I did was I actually programmed this little, on the black picture, it was called Karel the robot, who is an ancestor of Guido van Robot, which you might know from the Python language. But these are deep 80s, and all it knew is to actually program a recursion, turn 3 times to the right to be turned to the left. My programming culminated when I actually made him just kick the wall and was laughing that he looks like he's just cleaning his foot, but he didn't know to do anything. But actually, I had a basics of programming, and starting with the basic, the language, programming language, and went through all sorts of weird languages like C, and ended up with a bit of a Python. So, but I still didn't develop into a coder or programmer. But I can read code, I can select the code fit for my purpose, and I can extend it with whatever I need in addition and implement a tool. Yes. Next characteristic, I always was short of whatever currency. Yes, I come from not an affluent background and also not from an affluent country, from Slovakia. That was mid-90s, but we were officially after transition from the communist system, but this is deeply rooted, and make a society appreciate funding whatever related to education or science just takes time, a lot of time, more than a lot of time. So I also didn't have a stomach to beg for licenses, and I gave up in first or few resistance, encountering first few times a resistance with stupid arguments. So I said, okay, let's look for some other options. So we had the internet. It was still spelled with a capital I, so mid-90s, I tell you. And we had access to unique computers. I haven't had mine, but I could actually access what was available for me, and most of them were encrypted with password 123 in mid-90s, so it was very easy to actually try to see if there is something else on BitTorrent than just Rambo movies. Yes, and we found stuff. That was the open source tools. So what happened is I actually turned into a pioneer OSGeo super user in mid-90s out of necessity, without even, OSGeo didn't exist then. So without even knowing what am I doing. So I was using the baby versions of all these softwares, and this trio is my gold combination. I always found some student to actually extend it, because I had an idea, planted a bug to them, to those that were curious enough to actually help making these work. Now, after being elected as a charter member, so what possibly can I actually give back to this community? My mom told me that whatever I actually get for free, I should try to find a way to give back. So everything I learned about OSGeo tools and working with OSGeo tools was given to me for free as part of these OSGeo tools, in user manuals, in discussion forums. So I thought, I'm not a developer, how am I going to contribute? So because I teach on OSGeo, I decided, that's the way. Yes, helping in all educational activities, acting in academic tracks as a reviewer, always accepting a paper to review when it discusses OSGeo tools, because that's the way to improve those as well. I mentor the educational challenges, helping UN OpenGIS initiative, and always show people who get stuck in proprietary software the equivalent of OSGeo, because nowadays it's possible. Yes, it's more than 30 years of development, and there is always an equivalent for whatever you do in this other software. So how will you contribute is my question here. Thank you.